Welcome to Techies for Reproductive Justice, the podcast, a place for technologists and community organizers to learn from each other. In this podcast, we'll explore security tips and operations security for organizers, how to help keep our movement safe online, the intersections and history of technology, reproductive justice, and other types of movement work, what organizing in the digital age looks like, and the pros and cons of technology and organizing. I'm your co-host, Azamare.
And I'm your co-host, Lou.
Amanda is currently the VP of Policy, Strategy, and Trainings at Personified Tech, an IT and cybersecurity provider for impactful organizations. She previously worked at Digital Defense Fund, providing digital security technical assistance to the abortion access movement. Before working in tech, Amanda worked at Jane's Due Process, helping young people access abortion through the judicial bypass process. She's a longtime volunteer for her local practical support abortion fund, the Bridge Collective.
Before we get into our interview, it's time for T for RJ's media recommendations of the week. Your spot for all things reproductive justice, social justice, and tech media recommendations. This episode, we want to highlight Sinners, an early summer blockbuster movie directed by Ryan Coogler. Sinners is a vampire allegory for white appropriation and extraction of Black culture. The music is great, the visuals are stunning, and if you haven't seen it, you definitely should. Now let's get into the episode. Thanks so much for joining us, Amanda. We're really excited to have you here today. Just starting off, what was your path into technology, digital security, and reproductive justice work?
Yeah, so my path to working in technology was definitely a very meandering one. I started out working in direct service, helping people get abortions. So while I was in grad school for public policy, I worked part-time for Fund Texas Choice and helped people who were getting practical support assistance to travel out of state or within Texas. And then I worked at Jane's Due Process as a case manager, helping teenagers get abortions through the judicial bypass process. So at JDP and at FTC, but I spent more time at JDP. Tech was a tool, and I was the youngest person working at JDP, so I was the accidental techie at the small organization. I know that's a common story in our movement, just like it was a very small org at the time. It was just two of us. So, we're wearing a lot of hats, doing a lot of things. And so we had a text hotline, which was my work phone number, which was on our website. And so I was doing case management for all these young people, like in the judicial bypass process, getting abortions. And then also random people were texting me because my number was on our website as our text hotline. And I was like, this is not sustainable. Like, people have to be able to text us because we work with teens and they want to text. And like, as millennials, I totally get that. So I had to figure out a solution to have a text hotline that wasn't my phone number on the website. So that was really my first big tech project, where I started digging into what are all the options for text lines, what do they cost, like really kind of working through all of those processes of like making a decision about a tech tool. And I got connected to a friend of a friend who worked in tech, and she showed me how to set up a kind of hacked version of a text hotline where we put 3 different tools together that were all free or low cost for nonprofits, and ended up with this text line that a whole team of volunteers could help manage on Slack. And it was just such a cool experience seeing a way to make this technology that was designed for corporations work for our organization and help me harness all of this volunteer power to support young people in Texas seeking information about abortion, information about birth control, ultimately like doing intakes to get a judicial bypass. It was very, very cool. And then about a year later, that person who helped me set up the text hotline got a job as the founding director of Digital Defense Fund and came back to me and was like, hey, you can learn the tech stuff. What they needed was someone who had experience working in abortion access. So that's how I ended up working at Digital Defense Fund, doing digital security support for abortion access orgs. And then after about 4.5 years at DDF, I transitioned to where I work now, which is Personified, where I get to work with Azamare. And it's nice to be part of a company that works with a whole bunch of progressive nonprofits and gives them capacity for IT and cybersecurity, because that was the challenge that I saw at DDF, was like, no matter how much, there's so many free resources that we could offer. And we could, at DDF, we gave grants, so we could offer organizations like money to hire folks to help them with tech. And then I saw Personified just being a company that really stood out as like actually getting it and being able to give that IT and cybersecurity capacity to nonprofits. So really thrilled to get to be part of that to this day.
It's awesome. We really like hearing about like non-traditional, non-linear paths into tech because so many people think they have to go to school and have like a certain path. So hearing your like you starting off and like doing something for other people to how like where you are now with Personified is really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, obviously I believe that anyone can learn anything related to tech. Like we don't have secret knowledge that's only accessible with a certain degree or a certain education path. But then on the flip side of that, I have to remind myself that like now I do have years of getting paid to focus on IT and security. And so I do have a level of expertise that I know is rare and is a privilege. And like, yes, anyone can learn it, but not everyone has the time to learn it. And that's what I've been lucky to have.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for sharing. Shout out to all the accidental techies in our lives.
Yes.
So I feel like that text line story is such a great example of the way that technology really positively can impact grassroots organizing and like direct service work and so many other important projects that people do. But I'd love to hear from your observations at Personified and at DDF and just in general, how you've seen technology impact organizing in positive and in negative ways, and what you think the biggest kind of risks and the biggest gains are in using technology in this moment.
Yeah, for sure. This is such a good question. It's a hard question because of its breadth. When I think about technology, and I remember all the things people came to us about at DDF, like as the tech experts, people expected us to have knowledge on so many different things because technology could mean social media, could mean surveillance, like forensic extraction tools, AI, like the internet, websites, like VC funding, and like that tech industry culture. And I've definitely only have expertise in like a few slices of, I guess, what we could consider technology. And then also with organizing, I feel like I'm not an expert either with organizing, but I did want to shout out a couple books that I've read that have really influenced like how I think about organizing. The Revolution Will Not Be Funded, and the book No More Heroes by Jordan Flaherty. And then my experience working in direct service. Yeah, I think, on the positive, like tools are accessible. There's a lot of open source tools. Like tech can create so much space for creativity and communication across time and space. TextLine at GDP is a great example. And like our networks can be so large, but then on the flip side, like the negative side, our networks can also be like much shallower. Like tech doesn't necessarily create meaningful connections, even if it creates connections. And then it does require time and expertise, especially custom tech. Like the only reason I was able to put that text line together is because I got connected with someone who knew how to do it and had the time to show me how to do it. And I had the time to then do it. And then it can be risky, like in terms of that kind of custom tech that you put together. Like when something breaks, you have to figure it out yourself. It's not guaranteed to work like as the tools change and like their subscription tiers change and their features change. Like things can be kind of fragile. And yeah, the most user-friendly tools aren't always designed with like progressive values in mind. And so there's just so many trade-offs between like the tools that are the easiest to use being, big tech tools and things like that. So yeah, the risks can kind of outpace the reward, especially when it comes to custom tech.
Yeah, that is so frustrating that easiest solutions for so many people are the ones most involved in repressing and surveilling and harming so many people. I'm just thinking about the de-Google effort that so many folks are undertaking right now and how hard that feels at times, and how hard it is because they do offer a lot of things for free that are very functional.
Yeah, I was talking about this with someone yesterday because we're doing a mutual aid fair and we want to talk about how to de-Google because a lot of people are into that. And we're pretty sure that there's going to be a lot of people who are interested in just like digital security things, getting away from Google. And we're using CryptPad, and it's like awful on the phone. And we were just talking about how inaccessible it is. Like, I have a spreadsheet on there, and I had to copy that spreadsheet like of supplies to Google Docs so I could actually open it on my phone when we went to the space. And I'm like, all the like really secure tools just aren't, unfortunately, where they need to be accessible for everyone.
But more reason to get more techies working on those open source tools to make them even better for all of us. So open source for everyone. Yay.
Yes. And,
Yes.
I think there are times when like it's okay to use Google, right? Or it's okay, like where using the more accessible tool is the more important, like when that does need to win out. And I think, that's one of the hard things about tech and organizing is that it involves like the decisions about what tools to use just involve these complex like risk assessment and threat assessment processes that, like organizing itself, like you have to communicate meaningfully with people who have really different opinions and really strong feelings. And yeah, it can be a hard process for sure.
Yeah, that makes me, I really like what you have written up for like at Personified, because I remember a lot of our clients were asking you and other people at the company, like, should we get away from Google? Should we be using CryptPad? And like, you basically said that, like that really like nice, pretty language that you said, like, not everyone needs to move off of Google. Cause sometimes like, I feel like we've talked about this before, Lou, on the podcast, a balance between like things that just are so overly secure that it just doesn't make sense for your threat model versus not being secure at all.
Yeah, for sure. And organizing as a small group of individuals who are deciding to break the law or like commit civil disobedience has a really different threat model than like organizing as a 501c3 nonprofit that has to comply with all of these laws in order to keep paying people, right? So yeah, it's definitely, it always comes back to risk assessment, I think, and threat modeling.
And if I can add, while still on this kick, like risk assessment and threat modeling and like squaring our values in our tech choices at the same time, which can be really hard, given Google's, implication in the genocide in Palestine and cooperation with ICE and all those things, like trying to find a tech provider that makes accessible tools that's not implicated in that stuff is super hard, and we need accessible tech. Yeah, so just balancing all those things is difficult for sure.
That kind of leads to our next question. Are there any tech tools or platforms that you think are truly serving communities well right now?
Yeah, always have to shout out Signal, right? Signal's amazing. I think it's such a good example of a tool that is so accessible while also being really secure, that has a business model that's really different from your typical tech corporation that has still managed to be really successful. So yeah, love Signal. Try to get all your friends to move the group chat to Signal. Such a good tool. Another tool that I love and that I use in my volunteer work with the Bridge Collective, delivering kits with Plan B and pregnancy tests to people in my area. We have a custom app that was developed by a group of volunteers that are now housed at Techies for Reproductive Justice. And it took a lot of time a few years ago when I had a lot of time because I was just staying home during the lockdown days. I met with these developers and like they walked me through how to build this app, and it did take a lot of time, but now we have this app that saves us so much time and energy when it comes to distributing kits because it was designed by volunteers at a practical support abortion fund, and like we get to benefit from what they made for our like slightly different model. And yeah, it's just been so cool, and it's just a great example of how committed volunteers can create really useful tech. And then the kind of home that T4RJ is providing has brought new volunteers to the app. And that is like one of the big challenges of open source technology. So just like, yeah, shout out to community and the way that T4RJ can connect people to projects like that. And then the third one I want to shout out is, I guess, a bit of a hot take in light of our recent conversation, but Google's Advanced Protection Program. I do want to give Google a little credit. I do think, obviously, there's so many ways in which Google is evil, and like Google search sucks now, and like all of these different things. But the Google Advanced Protection Program is a security feature that Google offers for free to anyone with a Google account, whether it's a work account, a personal account, doesn't matter. And they designed it for their users who are facing the biggest threats imaginable, right? Like activists and organizers who are going up against governments that are dedicating a lot of resources into trying to hack that person's email account. The Advanced Protection Program is designed to protect people who enroll in it from that kind of threat. And there's like no other email provider that offers that. And so I think that's another trade-off when you're thinking about like whether or not you use Google or a different provider, is that protection from phishing that the Advanced Protection Program provides by enforcing security keys as the only method of 2FA that you can use, which is like my big recommendation to everyone listening to this podcast: start using security keys, whether they're physical keys or pass keys. The phishing is getting good. You got to have key-based MFA now. And APP enforces that for anyone who enrolls. And it also makes you like jump through some hoops to authorize connections to your account, and all these other different ways that people can try to exfiltrate data from your Google account are blocked by APP. So I do think that that's a really great tool. Similarly, Apple's lockdown mode is a really great tool that, again, like, you know, Apple's a huge corporation, but I do appreciate that they've created this you know, suite of settings on an iPhone that if you turn it on, it makes it so much harder to extract data from your phone. And so like an iPhone that's up to date, that has lockdown mode on, that's turned off, like I'm pretty confident no one's getting data off of that phone. And that's really cool because I don't have the same confidence for Androids, right? So yeah, hot take shouting out Google and Apple on the T4RJ podcast, but
I appreciate the nuance. You know, it's important to take what we can. And I didn't know about that program.
Oh yeah, some of our clients use it. I didn't know about it until that. But I think it's cool that you did that because it's like, I mean, as long as we have to stay on these platforms, might as well find things that can actually help us, even if it's like we still have our issues with it. And also going back to what you said about the app that you created for giving out Plan B and RJ kits. You said like some of the volunteers helped like with developing it.
Yeah, so there were volunteers at Practical Support Org in Houston, and they're the ones who developed the app and like built it. And then a few years ago, when the org that I volunteer with, the Bridge Collective, started our Repro Kit delivery program, we were just like using emails to like send out requests, and it wasn't the most secure thing. It wasn't the most efficient thing. And so we met with the app development team from this org in Houston, and they were like, well, we have an app that you could use, but it's like a single tenant app. And so they couldn't just like add us as users. Like we had to create our own tenant of it. And so I did not do any like creative thinking. I just like meet on a video call with them, and they'd be like, okay, open up Azure, type this here, type this there, and like coached me through creating a new tenant of the app, which like they now maintain for the Bridge Collective as well.
That's super cool. Like, I love the fact that they were involved, like having people who are actually like doing the work involved in creating the thing that they're going to be using. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was really cool. I learned a lot in the process too.
That's awesome. That's my favorite way to learn tech. Someone telling me, go to this website, plug this in here, go to your terminal, do this. I appreciate that.
Yeah, learning by doing.
Totally. Yeah, you've been in so many different roles, and you know, from direct service to now, like also in direct service in many ways, but more on like the technical side of things. And I'm sure living in Texas has given you plenty of experience, or being in Texas at that time, gives you plenty of experience in the ups and downs of living in the current world. And I'm really curious what keeps you motivated to continue in this work, even as it can be really hard and demoralizing sometimes, especially in this current moment.
Yeah, I'm still in Texas, and I didn't have any notes prepared for this question because I feel like I'm the least motivated or like the least. I do feel. I was trying to think of something inspirational to say, and I was kind of like coming up empty. I think, in terms of like abortion work, what really keeps me motivated is just this like commitment to this, my own little personal theory of change, which is like, if everybody has someone they know is a safe person they can talk to about abortion, then then everyone will still be able to get an abortion. And so that's kind of how I'm committed to abortion access right now, is that kind of small scale, like continuing to talk to people about it and try to be that resource, which I think, I used to do much more on social media, like, 5 years ago when social media felt like a less toxic place. And it is cool to see, like, when you are out loud about something like abortion, like people do come and find you as a resource, even like years later. People that like, my only connection to them is that we're Facebook friends from my hometown, right? Like random people will remember you as a resource when you've talked about abortion a lot. And that is really cool. But lately, yeah, it's more, I'm meeting with some friends here who are also like really dedicated to showing up for people and helping them get abortions however we can, and doing that kind of small scale, like just real individual to individual kind of work. And then on the tech side, I think, what the cool thing about tech is that there is always something new to learn. And I do love being a student and I love learning. So whenever I get time in the day to read one of my tech newsletters and just like start putting the pieces together, like going back to kind of how broad and how much there is in technology, it's just, I don't know, it's cool to like listen to a podcast or read a newsletter or talk to someone and then see something happening at a client and like kind of connect all of these dots to see like different trends and changes that are happening, and just trying to stay on top of that is kind of fun and motivating.
Do you want to plug any newsletters that you find particularly useful, or podcasts that you turn to make sense of everything?
Yeah, I love 404 Media. They're also just like a great alternative business model in the tech world too, that I think is cool in these days of like it being really hard to find information on Google. So yeah, love 404 Media for tech stuff. I've had to pay attention to AI for work. And so a lot of the tech newsletters that I subscribe to now are AI related. So I don't know if I'd like recommend them, but Ethan Mollick is an interesting perspective on, he's a kind of an AI enthusiast, but he has like a very balanced approach, I think. And Gary Marcus is more of an AI skeptic. And then I also balance it out with Simon Willison, who's another like AI newsletter. And for security, let me think. There's Krebs on security is one of my favorite blogs to get updates from. Yeah. Do y'all have any recommendations? I always need new newsletters.
I feel like you recommended 404 Media to me, and now I really like that one. So definitely put me on that one. I feel like the ones I know are ones that other people recommend. Probably mostly you and other people at work. So the ones I know, you probably know.
I've been really appreciating Media Justice. They did this webinar series called WTF, and it was like 6 or 7 videos, and like it was like WTF is up with data centers? WTF is up with AI? And I just really appreciate their analysis about some of the harms. They're very anti-AI though, so maybe it would balance. It's a good, always good to have a balance, especially as AI is certainly here to stay in many ways. I like that setup too. Just like, what the F is all this stuff that is happening and happening so fast?
Yeah, that's fun.
You just reminded me of one. Radical AI is a good podcast. I don't think they're currently in like doing stuff anymore, but yeah, it was like two people. I think one of them was studying AI in school or something. But either way, it's like a really good podcast. So they just have different people come on to talk about different things around AI, like social ethics, stuff like that. So if you haven't heard of that one, that is a pretty good podcast.
Awesome. I will check it out.
And I also, looping back to the beginning of your answer to this question, I just appreciate that, it can be hard to find the motivation sometimes, or like, that you don't have to have some like really, rah speech prepared, because that's not how it feels a lot of the time, right? And I think it's so important to be real with each other about that. Like sometimes it can feel hard, and it's important to deal with that too.
Yeah, it's really important to acknowledge that. So like we did talk about a lot of heavy topics, so we want to talk about something a little bit more fun to end on. But what's a hobby you enjoy outside of the work that you do? I actually know this question. I actually know the answer.
Did you ask me? Is this a leading question? Yeah, I'm really into salsa and bachata. I'm really into dancing. And yeah, no lack of motivation there. Definitely a lot of joy to be found in dancing. So I have some really awesome instructors here in Austin that are focused on the Afro-Cuban roots of salsa and traditional Dominican bachata. And yeah, I got to go to Cuba earlier this year with those instructors. So it's been amazing. Like I feel like over the last couple of years working with learning from Angie and Audrey are their names, like just has really like deepened my connection to dancing. And I've gotten to be on a performance team with them, and yeah, spend a lot of time dancing, and I love it.
Yeah, we've seen some videos. You're really good.
Okay, I have not. Send these videos.
I will. Yeah, it's always fun to like one of my good friends, another T for RJ, who was on the podcast, Nicole, is also a dancer. And there's a couple other folks like in the abortion space and in the tech space who are also into dancing. And it's always fun to like find people in your niche field who also have your niche hobby. It's very cool.
Yeah, that's me with roller derby, because there's a few people in RJ that are also in roller derby, and I'm like, oh, there's other people. That's cool.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I feel like there's a few T for RJers who are really into contra dance too, or like into learning contra dance right now. So the dancing is alive and well, which I really appreciate, because I don't consider myself a very good dancer, but I really enjoy it, and I always love to pretend.
Yeah. No, I think it's just like tech. There's no like secret. It's just time and energy. And yeah, I've been dancing. I can't believe how long I've been dancing now, but I started in college. So it's been like 14 years that I've been dancing. So yeah, I have no special talent. I've just spent a lot of time doing it. And yeah, it's super fun. And I'm taking a Afro-Cuban percussion class right now as well at the local community college, which is so cool. And I don't know, getting together and making music with people or dancing with people is like the antidote to all of the negative stuff about the internet, I think, and all the negative stuff about technology. Like I love going dancing because I can't be on my phone, and like you're just connecting with people the whole time when you're doing music or dance, which is so lovely.
Love that.
Yeah, same. Thank you so much, Amanda. It was really amazing to talk to you. I feel like if we had more time, we'd probably talk forever. I always like learn so much from you. So thank you for coming on.
Thank you. I always learn so much in conversation with you as well.
Yeah, so great to learn a little bit more about your experience, Amanda. I really appreciate it.
For sure.
This episode was brought to you by Techies for Reproductive Justice, a project of the Digital Defense Fund. Your hosts for today's episode were Lou and Azamare. Thanks to our severely stupendous editor, and many thank yous to Amanda for speaking with us today. If you liked what you heard, stay in touch with us by subscribing. Want to become a member of T4RJ or have ideas for future episodes? Check out our website, techiesforrj.org, to learn more and send us a message. Again, that's techies4rj.org. Our theme music is Beauty Flow by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.com. The song is licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0 license. And thank you to all of our listeners. We are grateful to be in this movement together. See you on the internet.